Welcome to the TExES 391 Core Subjects EC-6 Online Test Prep course, covering subject exam number 1, English, Language, Arts, and Reading, test number 901. This course is presented by Teacher Preps, your trusted source to help you pass your teacher certification exam. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get started. As you can recall from the NES and Texas Education Agency Administration website, the TExES Core Subjects 391 ELAR exam has a total of 10 competencies. This lesson is all about competency number 6, which is about reading, inquiry, and research, where the teacher understands the importance of inquiry and research skills to students' academic success and provides instruction that promotes students' acquisition and effective use of these skills in content areas. Now, let's take a closer look into this competency to better understand what we need to know for exam day. Keywords right at the top: reading, inquiry, in other words, asking a question to get information, and research. All right, we've got the main idea. Now we need to be able to provide instruction to teach research skills in content areas, which are specific subjects like language arts, math, science, and other areas of study that students in school learn. Okay, great. I think we've got a great start. Let's jump straight into the learnings of this lesson, beginning with statement number 1, which reads, "The beginning teacher teaches students how to develop open-ended research questions and a plan such as a timeline to locate, retrieve, and record information from a range of primary and secondary sources." Highlighting the key points here, we have how to teach students to develop open-ended research questions and a plan to locate, retrieve, and record information from primary and secondary sources. These descriptive statements sure are dense, but no problem. I've got a plan, and let's go through it together to get you totally prepped for test day. We're going to start with the basics: open-ended research questions. Let's start with what they are not. Open-ended questions are not the ones that result in a yes or no question. So, what they are: open-ended research questions prompt in-depth exploration and allow for multiple perspectives. For instance, instead of asking, "Did the American Revolution begin in 1776?" which seeks a factual answer, yes or no, an open-ended version might ask, "What were the socio-political factors leading up to the American Revolution?" This broader question encourages students to dive deeper into the topic, analyzing various elements that contributed to the event. Before starting the actual research, you'll want to teach the students about primary and secondary sources. You're going to have exam questions on this, so pay attention here. Remember, primary sources refer to the first-hand original materials from the time being studied. They could be documents, letters, diaries, or other artifacts that provide direct evidence about the topic. For instance, a diary entry from a soldier during the Civil War would be a primary source. On the other hand, secondary sources interpret, critique, or analyze primary sources. Examples include books, articles, and documentaries. An article analyzing the soldier's diary mentioned before is a secondary source. Formulating open-ended research questions. Let's talk about it. In order to teach our students, we can follow this 4-step framework. Take notes here for your exam. Step 1 is to identify a broad topic. Start with a general topic of interest. For example, the civil rights movement. Then, step 2 is to narrow down the focus. Pinpoint specific areas or themes you want to explore. For example, the role of women in the civil rights movement. And then step number 3 is to construct your question using interrogative words like how, why, and to what extent can help. For example, how did women shape the direction and outcomes of the civil rights movement? And then step 4 is to review and refine. Make sure your question is clear, it's researchable, and it's not based on assumptions. Next, let's keep in mind characteristics of effective open-ended research questions. You're going to want to be on the lookout on your exam because you're going to have to choose the correct multiple choice question. And so here are the characteristics. Follow and remember this. Let's go. First one, your research question should be clear and understandable. We call that having clarity. Your topic needs to be researchable. You need to be able to find information on it. And then relevance. The question should be significant to the field of study and contribute to existing knowledge or challenge current beliefs. And be specific. While they should be open ended, they shouldn't be so broad that they become unmanageable. Let's cover the next section on the descriptive statement, which is teaching our students how to make a research plan. We've created 5 clear steps to follow. Keep these in mind when answering your questions about making a research plan on your exam. Number 1, create a robust research plan that has clear steps. This is developing a research plan. Next, select your topic selection. Then, identify sources. Determine where to find relevant primary and secondary sources. For younger students, the teacher might provide a curated list. Up next, organize a schedule for when each research task will be completed. For instance, week 1 might involve gathering sources, week 2, reading and taking notes, and so on and so forth. This is the timeline creation step. And then, read, understand, and extract relevant data or information from the chosen sources. This is information retrieval. Finally, take notes and organize. Encourage students to use tools like index cards, digital platforms, or notebooks to categorize their information effectively. Remember, educators, our role is to guide students to become self-sufficient researchers. The skills they cultivate will not only prepare them for academic success, but also for understanding and navigating the world around them. In section B of this course, I'll teach you what you need to know about this second description statement from Competency 6, which reads, "The beginning teacher selects and uses instructional strategies to help students comprehend abstract content and ideas in written materials, such as examples or graphic organizers." Great, let's dive into this lesson and help you get prepared for test day. First order of business, understanding abstract content in written materials. Remember that abstract content refers to ideas or concepts that aren't easily visualized or grasped. In literature, this might be the theme of love in a Shakespeare play, or the representation of freedom in a novel. It's not something tangible, but it's crucial for deeper comprehension. Now let's get into the instructional strategies for abstract content comprehension. In order to support your students' understanding of abstract concepts, let's go over strategies to help them visualize and connect these lessons now. If on your exam you're presented with an abstract concept question regarding symbolism in literature, look for an answer that uses familiar symbols like a heart representing love. Next, if on your exam you're presented with an abstract concept question regarding a theme in a story, look for an answer that encourages students to summarize the story in their own words, then ask them about the underlying message or lesson. If on your exam you're presented with an abstract concept question regarding irony, look for an answer that talks about playing a short video or providing a real life example where the outcome is the opposite of expectations and discuss its irony. If on your exam you're presented with an abstract concept question regarding moral dilemmas in literature, look for an answer that talks about hosting a classroom debate on a simpler, relatable moral dilemma before diving into the text's complexities. Then, if on your exam you're presented with an abstract concept question regarding allegory, remember, which is a story, poem, or picture that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning, typically a moral or a political one. Look for an answer that provides insight to other well-known allegories, like the tortoise and the hare, and explains the layered meanings to help the students understand this concept. If on your exam you're presented with an abstract concept question regarding metaphysical poetry or ideas, look for an answer that breaks down the challenging lines or phrases, drawing parallels to everyday feelings or situations. Then, if on your exam you're presented with an abstract concept question regarding existential themes in literature, look for an answer that poses relatable existential questions to students, such as, do we have free will? To initiate discussions and relate back to the text. Then, if on your exam you're presented with an abstract concept question regarding character motivations in complex novels, look for an answer that asks students to role play or write a journal entry as the character explains their actions. If on your exam you're presented with an abstract concept question regarding the idea of fate in classical literature, look for an answer that uses modern examples from movies or popular culture where fate plays a role and compare it with the classical text. And finally, if on your exam you're presented with an abstract concept question regarding satire or parody, look for an answer that shows a modern day satirical skit or read a parody of a well known work before analyzing the classical examples. Let's keep building off this idea of visuals with using graphic organizers as tools. Recall that graphic organizers are visual displays that demonstrate relationships between facts, terms, and ideas within a particular learning task. They can be diagrams, charts, maps, or tables, for example, and are especially effective for visual learners. For instance, a Venn diagram could help students understand and compare two abstract themes in literature. Here we go, moving straight into our third descriptive statement in competency number 6, which reads, the beginning teacher selects and uses instructional strategies to teach students to interpret information presented in various formats, such as maps, tables, or graphs, and how to locate, retrieve, and record information from technologies, print resources, and experts. All right, so keywords include maps, tables, and graphs. This tells me that this lesson is building straight from the last lesson of the competency. And in this lesson, we'll be learning to teach students to use these visuals to interpret information, as well as how to record the information from the various sources. Sounds fun? Let's jump straight into this lesson. Let's begin with the understanding of various formats for this lesson. First, we have maps. These are visual representations of geographical areas. Maps help students understand locations, distances, typographical features, and spatial relationships. Next, we have tables, which are grids of rows and columns used to display data. Tables make it easy to compare multiple items on multiple parameters. And then there's also graphs, which are diagrams representing data. And these help students interpret data better. Now that we have a refresher down, it's crucial to know how to evaluate and select appropriate instructional strategies for maps, tables, and graphs. Next, you'll know from our guide to aid your understanding and decision-making process that will help on test day. First, we need to learn to evaluate learner needs. Recognizing the learning needs, backgrounds, and prior knowledge of our students is vital. It's super important. Now, some students might be visual learners, preferring formats like graphs, while others might be spatial learners, favoring maps. Next, we want to select instructional strategies depending on the format and the learner needs. Once you've selected the format, whether the student will be using technology, like a digital map, or a print resource like a foldable map, for example, look back to lesson number 2 from competency number 6 to match the medium with the instructional strategy. In step 3 here, we want to incorporate multiple sensory approaches, combining visual, auditory, tactile, and kinesthetic approaches. In step 4, we want to encourage critical thinking. Pose open-ended questions that prompt students to think critically about the data they're interpreting. For instance, after viewing a migration map, ask the students, why do you think this migration pattern occurred during this period of time? And in step 5, we use collaborative learning by encouraging group activities where students can discuss and collaborate on understanding and interpreting information. Step 6 is to scaffold the instruction. For your exam, be on the lookout for a common theme. That instruction must first start with a simple format and gradually move to complex ones. For instance, begin with basic bar graphs before moving to intricate multi-layered line graphs. And then finally, we create continuous assessments. This helps teachers frequently check for understanding, and it can be effectively done through quizzes, discussions, or hands-on activities to ensure that students are not just passively receiving, but actively understanding and interpreting the information that's being taught, which is exactly why we have our practice tests and quizzes after each competency for you to check your understanding for your exam. Make sure that you're all prepared for test day. All right, let's keep going. Now we're at our 4th descriptive statement in Competency 6, which reads, the beginning teacher selects and uses instructional strategies to help students use inquiry and research skills across the curriculum, such as brainstorming to generate questions and topics, locating, organizing, evaluating, summarizing, paraphrasing, and communicating information, differentiating between primary and secondary sources, selecting and using relevant, credible sources. When I look at this statement, it looks huge, right? But notice what happens when I eliminate the example section. It becomes much smaller and much more manageable. Now here, we can see that this lesson builds from lesson number 3 in Competency 6, which was the last lesson, as this statement shares keywords such as inquiry and research skills. The difference from this lesson and last lesson is that in lesson 3, marked as C in this screenshot from the Texas Education Agency Test Administration website, we learned how to teach students to interpret information presented in visual learning modalities. Whereas in this lesson marked D on the screenshot, our focus is to help students use the research skills that were introduced in the last lesson, plus introduced more, such as examples provided. All right, if you're ready, let's jump straight into this lesson and get you totally prepped for test day. Let's start with why inquiry, which means asking a question for information, and research skills are so important to acquire for our students. First, inquiry is the act of asking questions to gain knowledge and understanding. And in academic contexts, students apply inquiry skills when they seek to answer questions about a particular subject matter, whether it's historical events, scientific phenomena, or literary themes. Developing these skills promotes critical thinking, comprehension, and independent learning. Great. Now that we have the basics down, let's dive into our descriptive statements information. Starting with instructional strategies for inquiry and research. First, we have brainstorming, a group activity where students suggest ideas without immediate judgment. This helps generate a wide range of questions and topics for research. Here are some instructional strategies you'll want to be on the lookout for when you take your exam. Encourage students to create a mind map. Start with a central idea or topic in the middle of the board. As students shout out related ideas or subtopics, draw branches connecting them to the central topic. Note that this can be done individually, in groups, or as a whole class. Another brainstorming activity students love is called round robin brainstorming, and this is when students sit in a circle. The teacher can choose a topic, and each student contributes one idea or question related to the topic. Note that there are many ways to effectively start brainstorming sessions. On your exam, use your critical thinking skills to identify the area and answer that fits best for the specific question. Moving on to our next descriptive statement phrase for competency number 6: locating, organizing, evaluating, summarizing, paraphrasing, and communicating information. Starting with locating information, we must teach students how to find relevant sources. Ways to do this include introduce them to school library and online databases. Introduce them to the school library and online databases. Teach basic search techniques using search engines, and practice skimming and scanning techniques for quickly identifying relevant details. Next, we have organizing information. Here, we want to ensure students can categorize and structure their findings. We can teach students this skill with these strategies. First, use graphic organizers like a Venn diagram, flowchart, or T-charts. Introduce digital tools like mind mapping software or other applications. Emphasize the importance of headings, subheadings, and bullet points. Now, let's move to teaching our students to evaluate information. In this case, we want to ensure students can discern reliable from unreliable information. We can help students achieve this by discussing the importance of checking multiple sources, introducing concepts like bias and credibility, and using real world examples to compare reliable versus unreliable sources. The next requirement on our descriptive statement for your exam is to learn all about how to teach our students to summarize information. In this case, we must teach students to condense information without losing essential details. We can teach our students this skill with these strategies. First, model how to pick out main ideas and supporting details from a text. Next, we can use the somebody wanted but so then technique for narratives. And finally, we can practice the 5 W's: why, what, who, when, and where in order to help our students extract the key information from their text. Now, in this next section, I'll teach you the strategies of instruction for paraphrasing information, where we must ensure students can rewrite information in their own words to demonstrate their own understanding. We do this by following these strategies. Now, we have compare original texts with paraphrased versions. Emphasize the importance of not copying, but understanding and then expressing in their own words. Practice with sentences and gradually move to larger paragraphs. Once students have completed this, they'll need to communicate the information that they've gathered. In order to do so, we will need to teach our students to effectively share their findings by way of introducing various presentation methods. It might be written reports, oral presentations, slideshows, posters, or more. We also need to teach the basics of citation to give credit to the original sources. Encourage peer sharing and feedback sessions. Here we go, moving straight into our 5th descriptive statement in competency number 6, which reads: the beginning teacher knows grade level expectations for inquiry and research skills outlined in the TExES essential knowledge and skills. For example, in 4th and 5th grades, develop and follow a research plan with adult assistance. In 6th grade, refine the major research question through use of secondary questions. All right, so after reading this statement, we can see what we need to understand is the TExES essential knowledge and skills for grades 4, 5, and 6. Let's cover this now so you're totally ready for the text framework on test day. This is a very straightforward lesson, and there will be a good amount of raw information that you'll be presented with, which is all TExES essential knowledge and skills, English language arts, and reading documents for grades 4 through 6. And at the end, I'll give you a super simple and highly valuable understanding of the differences so you can be totally ready for your exam questions. Take a moment, pause the video, and read this slide now. All right, now let's go on to fifth grade text expectations for inquiry and research skills. Once again, pause the video, read through these expectations. All right, then we have sixth grade text expectations for inquiry and research skills. Once again, pause the video and read through this list. Great. Now, there were a lot of similarities, especially between fourth and fifth grade. But as I read through the list, I noticed that there are differences, and I think these differences are equally important. So let's review the breakdown of grades 4 through 6 text differences for inquiry and research. Research plan division. Only the sixth grade specifically mentions revising the research plan. Refinement of questions. The sixth grade introduces refining the major research question based on answers to secondary questions. Next is evaluation of sources. Only in sixth grade, the students need to provide a detailed examination of sources for reliability, credibility, bias, and faulty reasoning. Next, we have ethical use of sources. The sixth grade uniquely introduces the ethical use of source materials and the need for academic citations. In summary, from fourth to sixth grade, the text expectations for inquiry and research skills demonstrate a progression in depth and complexity. While foundational skills such as generating questions and gathering information from varied sources are consistent across the grades, the higher the grade level, especially sixth grade, dive deeper into critical analysis, source evaluation, and refining the research process. By sixth grade, students are expected not only to gather and understand information, but also to critically evaluate it, synthesize it, and use it ethically. Great. Moving straight into our sixth descriptive statement inside Competency 6, this reads, the beginning teacher provides instruction to develop a topic sentence, summarize findings, and use evidence to support conclusions. Regarding the realm of building students' inquiry and research skills, this lesson focuses on the instruction to develop a topic, summarize the findings, and support our research conclusions with the evidence we found. Great, let's jump straight into this lesson. Start with the basics. This is our introduction. Begin by explaining what a topic sentence is to your students, the purpose of summarizing, and the importance of using evidence in writing. Topic sentence. Remember, this is a sentence that captures the main idea of a paragraph. Summary is a brief statement of the main points of a larger piece of work. Evidence are facts, details, or examples that support a conclusion or claim. Number 2, let's dive deeper into topic sentences. Importance here, the emphasis that a topic sentence provides direction and sets the tone for the paragraph. The characteristics now discuss the traits of a strong topic sentence. For example, clear, concise, specific. Now, let's explore summarization. The key components include the explanation that a summary should include the main idea, key details, and be concise. Strategies include using the 5 W's, why, what, who, when, and where in order to help our students identify those main key points. Next, we've got to give our students practice. We can give our students a short text, ask them to highlight or underline key points, and then write a summary about what they read. Then they share and discuss it. Diving into the evidence. Different types of evidence that we teach our students are facts, examples, statistics, and expert quotations. Now we have reliability. We always need to teach our students to discern between strong and weak evidence. Discuss the importance of sources. Remember, we've got primary and secondary. Also, citing evidence is extremely important when doing inquiry and research. Teaching lessons on this topic will introduce the concept of giving credit to sources in order to avoid plagiarism. Give our students practice, practice, practice. Provide our students with a claim or a statement. Have them find evidence from a provided text that we give to them in order that they can support their findings. Remember, these skills, especially for students grades 4 through 6, require continuous reinforcement. Be patient, offer plenty of practice opportunities, and always provide constructive feedback. Celebrate their progress and always encourage them to be curious and inquisitive. Now we're moving on to the final statement in this competency, which is number 6. If you've stuck around and watched the entire series, thank you so much. I hope this instruction is helping you prepare for your exam. This competency standard states the beginning teacher understands how to foster collaboration with peers, with family members, and with other professionals to promote all students' ability to develop effective inquiry and research skills in the content areas. This is an extremely important part of our career as being a teacher. Let's jump into this lesson now. Promoting of peer collaboration. Method that we use and recommend: utilize think, pair, share. It's fun, students love it. This is where students first ponder a research question individually. They think about it. Then they discuss with a partner sitting next to them, which is the pair, share. And finally, they share it with the entire class. Next, we have strengthening family involvement. And the method that we recommend here is to host regular research nights. Invite parents into the classroom, where families are invited to assist students with their current research projects. Parents love it. Kids really, really like it too. Now we have professional collaboration to enrich our own teaching practice. Method here is to organize monthly pedagogical roundtables where educators from different subjects share their best practices for what's working and also what's not working, so we don't have to repeat those same mistakes.